Britain would join nuke war if Kim strikes first against Trump. UK combat forces would stand with the international community in a second Korean war started by the North. Britain should be preparing to respond to the chance of war triggered by Kim. North Korea is feared to potentially launch a first strike if it becomes convinced the US, who have already threatened fire and fury, could be about to launch an attack on the Korean Peninsula. Kim's top diplomat has already threatened to shoot down US planes after B-1B bombers blasted over the region. Professor Malcolm Chalmers, defense expert at True City, told Daily Star Online the UK must be prepared as war could erupt with very little notice. He spoke to this website at the launch of new report preparing for the war in Korea, detailing the real possibility of a conflict in the Asia-Pacific. Britain, the UK could be drawn into a war between the US and North Korea. Professor Chalmers, a former senior special advisor at the right hand of two UK foreign secretaries, said Britain would face a very hard decision about joining the Trump. However, he told Daily Star Online the Britain would deploy forces in a scenario in which North Korea started the war with military action likely to be voted through by Parliament. The UK would face a much more difficult decision if the US launched a first strike against North Korea, the expert added. Prime Minister Theresa May might not receive parliamentary approval to launch military action if she tried to support Trump in a war the US could be seen to have started. Donald Trump, Britain would come to the US's aid if war erupted in the Korean Peninsula. Kim Jong-un, North Korea's leader, watching his most recent missile launch over Japan. 10 Downing Street would receive a phone call from the US president within hours of war erupting in the Korean Peninsula. Britain would then have to make its position clear on day one before having to wade into a war more intense than anything it had experienced in half a century. War could potentially be started by Kim if he fears the US is on the verge of launching its own military strike. Professor Chalmers rebuffed Trump's claims that Kim is a rocket man on a suicide mission, claiming Kim would only strike first if they feared a surprise attack. His report reads, "This scenario could play out if, as a signal of resolve, the US reinforced its forward military presence, thereby convincing Pyongyang that war had become investable and that it should strike first." Speaking at the briefing in Whitehall, Professor Chalmers said, "The critical determinant for how the UK would behave was perception as to who started the conflict. A conflict that was started as a result of North Korean military action would be one seen as about defense of the UN Charter." He added, "The UK needs to be thinking about this because it is something if it could occur with very little notice and very little consultation even with the South Koreans." Nuclear war. North Korea has been rapidly developing ICBMs to strike the US. War fears have been rising as Kim and Trump engage in a fiery war of words, with the US president threatened to totally destroy North Korea while speaking at the UN. Pyongyang responded by claiming Washington had declared war on them, threatening to shoot down US bombers flying over the Korean Peninsula. Tensions have been rising for years as the Kim family develops nuclear weapons, with Professor Chalmers adding talk of how to talk North Korea has been debated for nearly a quarter of a century. China has implemented tough new sanctions on North Korea today, ordered all joint businesses to close within 120 days. He warned the situation is developing at a rapid pace with a short window of opportunity if the U.S. wants to tackle Kim before he realizes his dream of nuclear-capable ICBMs. The expert added the unpredictable nature of President Trump has added to the volatile cocktail in the region. He called on the UK government to emphasize the US to step away from launching a first strike against North Korea. Britain should also consult South Korea, Japan and Australia before launching any action, Chalmers said. But added, we should be clear, if North Korea initiated the conflict then we would stand with the rest of the international community in opposing that aggression. Gruesome North Korean propaganda showing U.S. soldiers butchering Kim's people emerged today, as tensions rise between Pyongyang and Washington.